Hi everyone, good morning. Thanks for taking your time and joining the webinar. This is Koushik. I'm a lead data scientist at Academi, and I'm here to share my thoughts and answers your queries through this webinar on how to launch your career in data science. So I'll start the session by talking about Academi and the Academy programs, and then we'll get started with the AMA, where you can ask me any question on launching your career in the field of data science. I hope that's clear. You can turn on your cameras and you can also unmute yourself if you have any query to ask. So about Aptagram, so we are a deep tech company working on augmenting human intelligence through AI and ML. And we have been in this industry for the past 10 years. We have our branches in Ireland, India, Singapore, and UK, and we generally work on proprietary product line, venturing in the fields of recruitment, healthcare, utility, and other domains. So these are the areas where we primarily work on, and we develop our own products, which work, through AI and ML, and we work closely on computer vision, NLP, say deep learning, machine learning, analytics. So these are all the areas where we work on leveraging the cutting edge technologies and also enabling access of these ML AI models on edge devices. We do have capabilities where we can deploy them on cloud and we can service them across the globe. As Aptagram, we have been recognized as one of the top 10 startups by HISA in 2021, and we have been featured in NASSCOM's AI for Good Compodium. We've also been recognized by Singapore government for our work in, say AI for glasses, especially for the blind, and we have a lot more achievements. Let me not brag about them, but you see, like we've been a lot in this particular journey of AI and ML over the past few years, and along with this, with developing our own products, we have also a complete ecosystem where we incubate from the product ideation to the product MVP, and then we do, help companies launch their products in a commercial release. And you can get to know a lot about these details by visiting our Aptagram website. It's aptagram.com, or you can also connect on our social media handles on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Now, the reason for the entire, say, the webinar and how to launch. So let me put it this way. Now, coming to Academy, like who's offering this particular webinar. So we offer a data science program nurturing a new talent. Now, the obvious question would be why? Why a product development company is getting into this particular field? And we've been observing a specific trend that's been having in the recent years, where the data science has become a more of a sequential course. So to put it in a way, it has become more like a classroom kind of a learning, where we have observed that, anyone who is trying to get into data science, they're going through a sequential set of programs or say modules, where let's say the module one, they start with say basics of Python, two, they start with stats, three, maybe some specific tool, to handle all the data. And then going forward, say in the last, they would work on a capstone project and they believe that they are data science ready. But imagine that when a candidate having a knowledge which is completely sequential, how will a candidate be able to manage something on a real life? When there is a problem to solve through AI or ML, do you think this kind of sequence is going to work out? So what we have observed over time is because of these programs that are coming out, because of the multiple courses that, say that are being offered in the current society. So what's happening, you know, it has become a kind of a market where data science has become a hype and everyone is after the course. But in reality, they're not actually becoming a data scientist. They're just becoming a data aggregators where they're gathering all the kind of libraries and just putting it in one piece of code. So this is what is actually happening, and we wanted to make a difference here. And this is one reason why we have designed Academy. Now over here, we are trying to put all our experiences and all our learnings from our past, say industry experience, and from which an aspirant would become a real data scientist. So these programs, whatever we are offering, are mainly offered to working professionals and young data science aspirants, and so that they can start their data science journey. Now, more about this, you can find it in academy.in. Let me just, uh, you know, uh, walk you through on what is being offered, throughout this session. And coming to the main agenda of today's program, how exactly to launch a career in data science. Those of you who have enrolled to the program already, I believe we have had multiple one-on-one sessions and we have discussed about all your queries. And this is also a platform where you'll be able to ask us any queries that you have on how you want to start your career in data science and how we can assist you in that particular journey. And yeah, I think we can get started with any questions that you would have. So from the audience, you've got any questions to ask? Okay, there's a question in the chat which says why data science has such a hype in the current market. Okay, that's an interesting question. Let me put it this way. See, the concept of data science. Now, most people are viewing data science as a course which can be learned and which can be implemented. I would say take an example of Java or a Python, which are programming languages, and where we can learn these programming languages and can just implement them in the real time. Unlike the programming languages, data science is a process. Now, when I tell about process, what exactly comes as part of this particular process? Now, the process can begin as early as having a pain point. Let's say you're working in an industry, and the industry in which you're working on, there is a pain point where you want to address the pain point without actually requiring to put in a lot of human effort at that particular place. And you also do have a lot of data in that particular area where you can build something out of it. Now, considering this particular scenario, we do have a pain point. We do know what kind of data we can use in order to address that particular pain point. So when you have this kind of a problem, now let me tell you what is the process that would ideally flow as part of data science. So you would basically start your data science program, and okay, so you'd basically start with your problem statement and you would analyze your problem. If you're pretty sure that this is the problem where you are basically accustomed to, or it is an area where you do have some knowledge, I mean to say the domain knowledge, so it is pretty easy for you to understand why the issue is and how exactly this issue can be addressed. Now, let's say if that is a completely new area where you do not have a specific knowledge, then we need to dwell into the research. We need to see what exactly is the area that we are dealing with and how exactly we can address a specific problem. Now, once we know the area and what the problem is, now the next scenario that we are gonna come up with is something more on the end of addressing the data. Now, when we are coming to this particular part of data, we are gonna look at a few things. Do we have the data? What is required in order to solve the problem? Now, if we have the data, we're going to access the data. We are going to see if the data is good enough in order to proceed forward. If not, we again need to start collecting the data and then process the data so that the data is in a usable format. So when I say usable format, it is in a format where it is either structured or it is in a way where there are no values which are either missing or which are completely off the charts. So this is all coming under, say, a process called data pre-processing. And once we know that we have our data, we have the data which is also usable, then we are gonna go into a specific area, say building a model. So what do you want to use here? So whether you want to go with something as simple as, I would say, a machine learning model, or you have a lot of data, it's enormous, and you would want great accuracies, and at the same time your data is not properly structured. Let's say it is a completely unstructured data. So something as a deep learning is going to help in these particular scenarios. So we are going to have some research. We are going to choose what kind of model we want to use, and we are going to go with a specific model. So whenever you trade, whenever you take a traditional course, on data science, the course mainly focuses on you building the models, right? So whenever you say take a capstone project, everything is actually given to you in a plate. You have the data, you know what model you want to use. You would also have some references, say on a GitHub or something of that sort. So when you have all these references, it becomes pretty easy for you because there is no thinking that's going in at that particular point when you're building a capstone project. But over here, if you see on a real time, you need to analyze, you need to know the domain. And once you know the domain, you need to start working on the third part, where you want to understand the problem, the data, annotate it. All these things are actually not provided or not being addressed in the traditional course. And that's where Academy is coming into picture. At Academy, we are gonna take you through all this process. You're gonna work on a specific problem statement from the scratch till a point where you're building an MVP, which is going to give you a complete understanding. And coming to this particular part of why data science is having such a hype in the current market, it is because it is not pretty easy to just write a code and get outputs. It is a really complex process where there needs to be a lot of, say, patience. There should be a lot of think time that needs to go in order to address the problem right. So this is one reason why industries are looking at people who can solve such kind of problems, and that's where data scientists are coming into picture. Uh, I hope I answered your question, Aparna. So, any other questions? We have multiple people joining in. So, from the participant list, like, is there any other question that I could actually address? Or do you want me to just go through a process of what a data science career is going to look like? What would you prefer? You can either unmute yourself and answer, or you can type in your chat. Can I get some answers, please? I hope we don't have a sleepy audience today. Fine. I did not see any questions coming up. So let me drive the webinar this way. Let me just tell you like what a data science career looks like, or what exactly happens in the journey of you trying to solve a problem through data science. Uh, okay, as I explained so far, we have discussed about something more on the end of what data science is or what exactly goes into the process of data science, isn't it? So let me put it the other way around. Uh, what exactly is happening, or what exactly are you learning, say in a traditional course, and what exactly is happening, say in academy, or what kind of things are going in. over here. To put it, straightforward, whenever we are going through a specific course, or whenever we are going through, a journey of learning things by self. So we do know some standard things in data science which we always rely on. Say whenever we say data, we're gonna go to Kaggle, or we're gonna go for something called papers with code, which is working which is a recent tool which is available for all data and all the papers that we are looking for. And along with this, we do have whenever we are looking for any models or any say uh, a solution which is readily available. So we do have TensorFlow or Keras, Torch libraries, which give us solutions directly. Whenever we are going through these courses, so one key thing that we have observed is an aspirant who joins a specific course is going through a set of sequence. And when I say a set of sequence, the sequence is mainly on a classroom based. As I was explaining, we are going module by module, and we are just trying to learn what is happening in each module, which is giving us an overall understanding on what are the different terms that we are using, or what are the different models that are there in the market. True, but it is not actually making a person a data scientist. See, you might have come across this particular meme where they say a data scientist reality, job expectation and job reality. So there is one particular chart which says machine learning, there is only 10-20% of the work, and deep learning has about 80% of the work, which they say is an expectation, but in the reality, we work on multiple areas. Say on the end of data cleaning, say on the end of data pre-processing. We say annotate the data, we find the right model, we hyperparameter tuning, and then we also have something on the end of deployment. So we do have a lot of these areas, and this is generally being represented as what is the reality in data science. This is true, and yet it is far from the reality. Let me tell you why. Let's say you got a specific scenario where you are supposed to analyze a specific set of data. Consider it's a statistical data and you're asked to provide a report on it. Now, by default, people are going with tools such as Tableau or say Power BI. We are so stuck to using a specific tool because we have learned it in a course. But what's actually happening, it can be solved even without actually using the tool. And or there might not be actually a need even to use a tool. It could be easily solved just by writing a couple of lines of code. But there is no the candidates or the aspirants, they're not logically understanding why they are using a specific tool, or why they are using a specific model, or what is exact reason why I need to say use this off the box solution, why exactly it's happening. So they are just doing that because they were being taught that way. And this exactly is a issue when they land as a data scientist. As a data scientist, you shouldn't be basically restricted with the kind of tools or with the kind of say the languages that you are restricted to. Let's say if there is a kind of analytics which needs to be done, and let's say if it can be done by R, why not go with it? Why are we going with always Python? Whenever we say data science, we always think about say Python. No one says about any other languages. Why exactly is the reason? So there is not much thought processes going into any of these scenarios. And this is one more area where we are going to the academy programs are going to help you with these kind of scenarios. So that's one specific area. Knowing what tool to use, what are the tools that are available is important. What tool to use is also important. But while on the field, while working on a problem, knowing what is the right tool to solve this particular problem is the key thing to do, than saying that, okay, I know this tool and then I'll use it. So this is where the major difference is going to come. And secondly, let's go with, uh, you know, let's say you got the model, okay, you got the data, you were able to visualize it. Let's say you have done the visualization either through one of the tools, or you have just used say Python, use a matplotlib or one of such libraries, and you got off the chat solutions. Great. Awesome. Now what next? Now you need to do something with the insights that you've got from the visualization. Let's say you are building a model. Now, while building a model, what are the parameters that you do consider? Ever thought about it? What kind of features you are trying to use in order to build your model? Or what is the math behind choosing such specific features? All these things, whenever we are doing something as simple, something as a capstone project, we do not think about all these things, and the main reason is everything is available. So you're looking for data, the data is provided for you to do the project. You're looking for, say, a model. They've also given you a snippet of code on what kind of model you want to execute. Let's say, and most of the models, about 80 to 90% of the models that are developed, they just die in a Jupyter notebook, and they don't even reach a production server. And why exactly is this happening? There's a skill gap. You know, there is this really good example, let's say you've got a project, and in that particular project, you're asked to develop a kind of application which can help farmers in predicting a crop disease. Pretty simple. It's a classification, and you need to build a model in order to classify the different crop diseases and maybe provide with a an application which can help them. So when they take a picture, you'll be able to say whether a crop is diseased or not, and if it is diseased, what kind of a disease that it is currently suffering with. Right? Straightforward. Now, let's say we have got the data. Now, it is pretty easy. Now, if you do not have the data, do you have the right skill set to annotate the data? Do you know what exactly goes into the data annotation process? There could be a scenario where you need to build another tool in order to annotate the data by yourself. How are you going to do that? Isn't it, you get it, like where I'm going, right? So it starts right from annotation, and if you do not know how to annotate, or if you do a wrong annotation, the entire process, whatever you're going to build from this point on, is all going to go into garbage, just because it's not going to help, because the first step itself is completely wrong. And we provide such kind of detailing over here. So whenever you're taking a project from scratch, let's say you're working on a project, something on the NCDs, a non-communicable disease, and when you do not have any data, what kind of data points you want to even gather? So it's going to start from right there, how your thinking is going on. And that's where working with the data scientists is also going to help, because we are going to help you, giving the right inputs and making sure that you're traveling in the right direction. And that's going to help even in job experience. Now, let me bring back to that particular scenario of where we are, say using a crop, and then we are predicting some disease. Cool. Okay, let's say you've annotated, you've built a classification model, and then you are now supposed to deploy it. Now, how are you going to deploy it? Are you going to deploy it to a cloud? And if you're going to deploy it to a cloud, then how exactly is the farmer who is sitting in a very remote area going to use the application? Ever thought about any of these scenarios? So whenever you want to, give an application, to a farmer or to someone who is completely remote, you cannot have an application on the cloud. You should have the capability to deploy it, say on mobile. And how can you deploy a model which is 400 MB large to be deployed on a mobile? You need a skill again. So what kind of skill you need? So you should be able to quantize your models, or you should be able to turn your models into light models and then deploy those models into your application. And this exactly is what, again, being taught at the academy. So we are going to help you deploy these kind of models on edge devices, on SOM boards. So these are edge computing devices, and it is really important to know how you can also deploy the models on devices of this sort, because not every device can just go on the cloud, sit on the cloud, and can serve for every purpose. Fine. Uh, so this is what generally goes in the life, as a data science, uh, in the life of a data scientist, basically. Now, let's see, like, if there are any other questions that have come up in the chat section, or anyone, you have any questions, feel free to just unmute yourself and ask your questions. So we do have Xavier, Teja. So there are multiple people in the chat. Like, you have any queries? For those of you who joined, say a couple of minutes back, something of that sort, we have started with the session and we are going through AMA. So you can ask any question related to the data science career, or how you want to start your career as a data scientist. Just if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and uh, ask a question, or you can even drop a question on the chat window. Okay, while we get other questions, let me take another topic, like what happens. Uh, let's say, as a data scientist, what are the different domains that where we can actually use AI, ML, and what are the different areas? Um, how would I put it? Okay, let's say there is a specific area. So there is this question, like, what are all the different areas where one can use data science? Or what are all the opportunities that are there across the industry where one can use this data science? Um, so for that, let's say any area wherever we do have abundant data, there is a scope of data science. So let me put it this way. So let's say on you're working with an industry, and let's say the industry is something more into um, say manufacturing some chemicals. So there are a lot of chemical components which are generally being produced, and the factory is basically, it always needs to go under a maintenance regime. And in case if any of one specific, say a device or a complete appliance gets, say, it undergoes a maintenance, there's going to be a hold on the entire production line for multiple days. So in order to avoid that, even in those scenarios, by capturing the data through images, or by understanding how much of production is happening, what kind of chemicals are being, say, put out, or that are being produced, and what kind of reactions are happening in, say, in those appliances, I mean, based on the calculations, we can actually come up with AI models which can even predict what could be the next maintenance day supposed to, when is it going to get under maintenance, and maybe predict it before time and actually have a solution, or have a a early maintenance done, so that the complete production hold could be completely avoided. It's not this area. Let me say, okay, you might all have worked on resumes, right? So do you know, like, your resumes can also is also a huge data set where you can extract each and every piece of your resume, trying to analyze what exactly you have done in the past years. How, it all comes under NLP. And NLP is one another area where there's a lot going on, where there are people who are building chatbots, Q&A bots. There are applications where you can say build language translators, or even someone who wants to write an article, they need not actually start the article from scratch. They can actually take an help of an AI which can generate some specific paragraphs, and maybe the person can start off from these particular paragraphs and can even go from there. These are called text generators. So AI has advanced a lot in each and every industry. So there is no stopping to what AI can do and what are the areas or what are the limitations of AI. So that every area where there is data, or every area where there is a pain point which can be addressed, there is always a way where AI or ML algorithms can always be at the aid. Okay, I see one more question. Something on the end of using collab and okay, collab or the Kaggle, is basically using something as an online notebook where you can execute the models, and that he has been executing models on that, and there's only a specific time limit in which he can execute. Is there something that he can do, or is there some other GPU which he can use for free or something of that sort? Okay, so that's the question. So let me put it this way. So whenever you're working on a model, uh, whenever you're taking any data set, let's say from the Kaggle, or let's say from any other open source applications or websites, the data set that you're going to get is limited. Let's say it is, I would say it is mainly capped at one particular limit, say 5 or 10 GB. And even when you are trying to access these online tools in order to run your application through online GPUs, you're always restricted with the amount of data that you can process through these applications, because they always again have a cap which is at uh, 12 hours, I believe. So that's what is the cap with Google Colab. um, Again, I'm bringing it back to this particular online courses, where whenever we are doing any online course, the amount of data that we are getting over there is pretty limited. What is the amount of data that we are getting there? Let's say we are working on any statistical data. We're going to get somewhere around 1,000, 10,000 rows, and then we are asked to train on that. That's one scenario. Or whenever you're working on image data set, even there, a similar scenario applies. Your data set might not be larger than 1 or 2 GB. And then again, when you split it into train, test, and validation, there is again, a reduction in the data, which is fine, easy to process through a free online GPU. And you can get some results in 3-4 hours of time, which is great. But whenever you're using these kind of scenarios, it isn't easy for you to start with the things. I see a message saying I'm not audible. Shaptarishi, how about now? Like, am I audible to you now? Can anyone else confirm that if I'm audible? Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you. So let me get back to this particular scenario where I was explaining about Jupyter notebooks and stuff, right? Or online collab, an online GPU. So we are always limited, but when it comes to the real time, the data is going to be enormous. And at that particular point of time, you're not going to work on some online tool or on your local system where you can just execute and then get the results in a day, or, in say 3-4 hours. But the training on real-time data set is going to go on for days or sometimes even weeks. And in that particular scenario, these collab or a tool from Kaggle is not going to help, especially in this particular scenario. That's where you need to get accustomed to how you can use an actual GPU. When you have an actual GPU, or when you're actually taking a GPU on a, when you want to train a model for like a month time, for about a couple of weeks. So there are a lot of things when it goes, because the GPUs also do come at a great cost. And when it is coming at such a cost, it isn't easy, or it isn't simple to just set some random hyperparameter and say, okay, I'm going to train my model, I'll see what is my result after 2 weeks. Let's say after 2 weeks your loss hasn't even converged. What exactly are you going to do at that particular point of time, right? So these are all the things, this is where the industry experience comes into picture. And the academy program is basically here to make you industry ready. And what happens, whenever you are working on such kind of projects, we are going to provide you the GPUs, a GPU where you have an access to actually run your model, say for a for weeks time, or depending on the kind of project that you're choosing when you join the program in Academy. So you're going to have a GPU, you're going to have some monitoring tools, or you would write your own monitor loggers, where you keep getting to know on a timely basis how exactly your model is running. So all these things are pretty important. And the academic program is basically to make you industry ready, you know so by the time, even while doing the program, or by the time you complete the program, you can just look back at yourself, and that, and you can feel for yourself that you're no longer a data aggregator who just grabs in a few libraries and then builds a model. If at all it's a data aggregator, then companies even don't need such talent, right? Why would a company need to invest on a data scientist and then pay a salary and make him execute a code which is already available in, say, GitHub or through some library? Even a junior level engineer can do such kind of stuff. This is where, when you are developing your own models, when you're deploying the model on a specific system, when you're able to access the GPUs, when you're training in the GPUs, making sure that the efficiency is at its best. All these things are pretty important, and this is something which we are providing here. And it's not going to be a program where you're going to have something like a classroom lectures or anything of that sort. Let me put it this way. So, okay, let me walk you through like what exactly is um, happening, or what happens when you join the academy program. Let me just turn off my screen share or reshare my screen again. So I hope my screen is visible to you. So, okay, what generally happens? So the academy program is basically designed for working professionals, and also for, young aspirants who are interested in data science. So it is split into, in these particular ways, where a career camp is basically for someone like a working professional who want to gain their experience, or who wanted to gain their insights through data science. And a training camp is basically for a aspirant, who is new into this particular area of data science and who would want to make a career in data science. Now, career camp and training camp, both the programs at moment are being offered offline, and they are going to be in Aptagram's office. So the programs are going to be from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and career camp is going to be for 3 months, and then the training camp is going to be for a duration of 7 months. And in this duration, you're going to work along with data scientists, and while working with data scientists, trying to grab the knowledge, learn, and then at the same time implement whatever you are learning in the real time, solve a problem, bring it into an MVP stage. So all this happens during this particular phase. And while all these things are happening, you're also going to build an MVP where you need to collaborate with other teams. Say, for example, UX team, a UI, say a development team, a full stack development team where you want to deploy the application. The models cannot just sit on a Jupyter notebook and it cannot be done. So there are scenarios where you would need to collaborate with others. Let's say you want to deploy to a cloud. So you're gonna, have some knowledge of a person, who has a knowledge on DevOps, maybe some cloud-based, let's say Azure or AWS or even GCP, and then who can guide you how you can deploy over there, how you can deploy your entire application in that particular platform. So all these things are pretty much required when you want to grow as a data scientist. So you can no longer be a data aggregator. I wouldn't a candidate who can just grab in a few libraries and can build models. I would just call him as an aggregator and not a data scientist. And if you want to be a data scientist, then you really need to work on these areas where you are going to work from the bottom up, and it is going to give you the great results instead of just using some libraries. So if you are interested, or if you want to know more about, say, a career camp, a training camp, or what exactly we are offering at the academy, so feel free to reach out to us. You can also enroll, or if you think you wanted to have some extended conversations, we can also have one-on-one with you, and we can discuss more at length on what a data science career is and what happens in this particular data science uh, camp. Now, I would want to know if there are any further questions from the audience. Okay, I don't see any questions. So yeah, I think that's about it for the webinar. So thank you for joining. And those of you who have joined, the participation certificates and the data science toolkit, which you mentioned earlier, it will be sent on your email. If you're interested in knowing more about the Academy, you can register at theacademy.in. And if you have any queries regarding data science or your career about data science, feel free to drop an email on, Koushik@aptacademy.com or info@theacademy.in. And we'll respond to you ASAP. If you want to follow us on our social media handles, you can follow us on Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn. So we are available in all these platforms. So you can feel free to reach out to us. And one last query, like, is there any of you who is joining in from Hyderabad? Anyone who is joining in from Hyderabad? Okay, I believe not, but if at all you are from Hyderabad, or if you are, whenever you visit Hyderabad, you are welcome to join us at our office in Hyderabad, so that you can get to see what a work environment of a data science team is going to be, and we can definitely have some extended conversation about data science. So yeah, I think that's about it. Thank you all for joining. Have a great day. Bye.